Welcome to the channel. My name is Grizzy, and today I'll be ranking every legend in Apex Season 14 from worst to best. If you're having trouble finding your main or just want to know where the legends stand in the current meta, you're in the right place. We have 22 legends to cover, so let's hop right into it. Making up the D tier, we have the worst legend in the game, and that legend is Lifeline. As the game continues to progress, it seems like newer legends keep getting more and more insane abilities, with some of the older legends getting left behind, and that's how Lifeline feels. Although she is supposed to be the best healer and reviving legend in the game, she is far outclassed by other legends like Newcastle and Gibraltar. The devs at Respawn even went as far as to nerf her revive shield a couple seasons ago to basically give Newcastle that ability in his own kit. Lifeline needs some love, but until then, she's a low tier legend for me. The last legend making up D tier is Revenant. Now, Respawn did hint at giving the death robot some love this season, however, changes to his kit were non-existent in the patch notes. His movement abilities are far outclassed by other offensive legends, and his ultimate ability has really been nerfed since they added the ability to see when that's placed down, and hear when an enemy shadow is about to transform back into a regular player. Rev just hasn't gotten much love from Respawn lately, and you don't really see him being utilized in high ranks because there are far better offensive options. Moving on from D tier, we now hop into our first legend making up the C tier, and that is Mirage. If Apex Legends was a solo game, you better believe that Mirage would be a top tier legend because his abilities can actually help him a lot in a 1v1 fight. However, he lacks abilities that help the team as a whole. Yes, in niche scenarios, his invisible revive can really come in clutch, but for the most part, other legends are much better at reviving or dealing damage to opposing players. So don't get me wrong though, Mirage is super fun to play. He's just C tier for the team and for Season 14. Following Mirage, we have Fuse in the C tier category. Fuse is a damage dealing legend, so Respawn is very hesitant to really buff this legend's knuckle cluster. Fuse is nice to carry extra grenades, but the most underwhelming part to his kit is the ultimate ability. With legends like Vantage, Horizon, Wraith, etc., there's just so many ways for players to get out of his ultimate, and it doesn't really feel like it does a whole lot. I never understood why he would just shoot a giant flaming circle on the ground. Wouldn't he just want to concentrate all that fire into one center spot, kind of like a caustic ult to actually do some damage? But anyway, that's just me and my thinking. Anyway, next up in C tier, we have Bangalore, and Bang is a legend that does a lot of things above average, but nothing too broken or unfair. The only thing with Bangalore is how she's countered with the current meta, which is bringing her down to C tier. So the biggest hindrance to Bangalore's pick rate is the amount of scan legends that are popular in the meta this season, especially Seer. I swear every time we get into a fight in ranked, it seems like a Seer ult goes down, which directly counters Bangalore's smoke. Her passive is definitely nice, and her ultimate can reposition enemies, but all the scanning legends, even Vantage being able to snipe through the smoke, I just couldn't put Bang any higher than C tier this season. The last legend making up C tier is Crypto, and although Crypto is very unique, I just think that the other scan legends provide information to their team much quicker and a lot easier than Crypto. Don't get me wrong, Crypto is an extremely difficult legend to play correctly, and you need an entire team centered around his playstyle, but this legend can actually just be much better if you're able to master him and play him exactly how he wants to play his game. But for the most part, and how most people play Crypto, he is C tier for me. Now moving on into B tier for Season 14, our first legend is Wattson. Wattson can be great as an asset to the team if you're holding down a location, a building, or if you're trying to defend against a bombardment like a Gibby ult or grenades. So in some scenarios, Wattson is crucial to the success of your team if played correctly. Now where Wattson fails to be a higher legend in the A tier is due to her inability to push offensively or play in space. Her kit falls off drastically if she gets caught out in the open, which is likely to happen on Kings Canyon or for split 2 of ranked and Stormpoint. Now next up, Rampart is another legend that's similar to Wattson with her playstyle. If she's able to fully get set up and lock down a location or building, she can be absolutely devastating. However, fights in Apex are unscripted and you're going to be caught off guard quite often, which makes her kit in a pinch sometimes very difficult. Rampart does have more offense than Wattson with that crazy minigun, so we have her a little bit higher here in B tier. Pathfinder is another legend that we expected to have some potential changes for Season 14, but just like with Lifeline, the OG legends keep getting the short end of the stick. Pathfinder is still without a real passive ability and has an extremely large hitbox despite one of the best movement tacticals in the game. Path is still crazy fun to play and can be played at a high level. He's just difficult to master and is like shooting a giant refrigerator out there on the battlefield. After Pathfinder, we have Loba, and I feel like she will always have usefulness because it's always important to obtain good loot and loot those high value items. Her tactical now though is just far outclassed by a legend like Vantage's, and good loot can only get you so far. Yes, it's nice to be stacked up on ammo, but in in-game scenarios, there's usually another legend that could really help to eliminate the other team instead of Loba. After Loba, we have Ashe in the B tier category, and it seems that Ashe really had a lot of success on the giant map of Stormpoint, but she doesn't seem to be as favored on the smaller Kings Canyon. Her ult is still one of the best repositioning tools in the entire game for the team. Her tactical just feels extremely weak, like it does very little for the team, and then her passive can be very useful for rotations throughout the map, but with the new ring changes, it's almost impossible to even take the time to investigate death boxes if they aren't safe inside the zone. Ashe is a solid B tier legend and really excels on Stormpoint due to that verticality and her ult being able to get you in those vertical locations, but she's just B tier in the current meta. Now, a legend that's similar to Ashe for Season 14 is Octane, as he has one of the best team movement utility abilities in the game. He also passively regenerates his health and damages some of his health in exchange for a speed boost. Since Octane's nerf where you're unable to be accurate while you're firing off the pad, you're a pretty easy target to hit when you or your teammates take the pad. Yes, this jump pad can really help you in early to mid game with rotations and pushing enemies. However, in late game, the pad really falls off in usefulness for in game and those higher tier rank games, so Octane is a B tier legend. The last legend making up B tier is Wraith, and this is a great legend. She has an amazing tactical ability, but mainly this decision is due to Kings Canyon and the openness, and also Stormpoint. She really falls off in those two maps and is a lot better for repositioning her team on World's Edge, and World's Edge is not a ranked map this season. Wraith's portal distance is laughable and her passive ability really doesn't help much at all, but now her tactical is a great ability for getting out of trouble, but does take over a second to use, and then Wraith can be really a great legend to solo with this season, but her team viability and due to the maps being KC and Stormpoint, I just can't put her higher than B tier. Next up, we move into A tier, and these are some of the best legends in the game, and Valkyrie makes up the first legend in A tier despite her recent nerfs. Valk's passive was nerfed with its acceleration, her jets take more fuel consumption by 33%, and she takes more of a slow when she's mid-air and she's hit. They also nerfed her tactical missile swarm, however, all three of these abilities are still useful, especially her ultimate. Although her ultimate height was decreased by 25%, she's still the best legend for getting out of bad situations, and her jetpack passive still can work to take height. You just need to play her a little more cautiously now. Valk is still a great legend in Season 14 despite that huge nerf. After Valk, we have another high-flying legend, and that is Horizon. Horizon did receive a nerf from her ultimate ability where her teammates can destroy it with friendly fire. They changed the black hole's hitbox and also made it take more damage from grenades. Although these changes were pretty significant, Horizon still has a great ability for taking height, escaping, and has some awesome movement capabilities for high-tier players. Our newest legend on the Apex roster is an A tier legend to me. Vantage is the only legend in the game that can access her ultimate ability before it is even fully charged, meaning this legend practically always has 3 weapons in her arsenal. Her tactical is good as well for repositioning and movement, and her ultimate can do some crazy damage and allow you to run other weapon combinations even as a sniper. Then she also has that passive to even get information and knowledge on other teams. Vantage was a great addition to the Apex games and is an A tier legend. After Vantage, we have a big change in the meta, and that is Mad Maggie. Maggie is an absolute wrecking ball in the current meta, and her ultimate ability is no joke. There is hardly any counter for the Wrecking Ball unless you have a quick movement ability to get out of the way, or you're going to get hit by that Wrecking Ball and you're really going to take a lot of stun and you're going to get beamed. If you enjoy close range combat, try out Maggie. She is a great legend this season. She's A tier. After Maggie, we have Gibraltar, and although Maggie does directly counter Gibby, he still does mostly what he did before in Apex Legend, and that is play the defending support role extremely well. The Gibby bubble still has no HP, which is crazy to me since all other abilities like Newcastle walls have ways to shoot them or destroy them with any legend. Gibby was an S tier legend before, but now finds himself in the A tier because another legend is doing his job but much better now, and we'll get into that shortly. Next up, we have another thick boy, and that's Caustic. Caustic is such a good legend because he pairs his stout defense with great offense. Where Wattson might lack with an offensive push, Caustic can be insanely good offensively, especially to push a building. Not to mention, Caustic has always excelled on Kings Canyon as well. Our last A tier legend I considered an S tier, but had to drop the legend to A since another legend does the job better. Our last A tier legend is Bloodhound. Hound grants easy access knowledge and scans to the entire team and gains speed with their ultimate. Wall hacks are always going to be super good in this game, so Hound is A tier for me. And then finally, we have the top 2 legends in the entire game. Seer is an S tier legend due to his passive always being online to detect enemy locations. His ultimate is also extremely good as constant intel, and a good Seer will make it near impossible to shoot out his ultimate. Not to mention, he can also cancel heals, revives, and even abilities with his tactical. I'm honestly surprised we didn't see any changes for Seer for Season 14, but he is 100% S tier. Last but not least, we have the beast himself, Newcastle. Sometimes the Apex devs don't really analyze their data the best because yes, Newcastle did need a little tad bit of a shield speed or shield speed increase for that tactical, but his pick rate last season wasn't a reflection of how good the character actually was. He just wasn't as popular of a pick at that time for pubs, but we saw how amazing he could be when 100 Thieves got 3rd place in the last ALGS. Now Newcastle got buffs where they increased the move speed during his revive by 25%, they reduced the turn slow while reviving by 50%, they increased the HP of his mobile shield from 350 to 500, and they also doubled that max movement speed of that tactical ability. And then lastly, his castle wall, they added turn slow to the electrical barrier effects and increased the severity of the slow effect to enemies that get hit by that ultimate ability. He literally got a buff in every aspect and now is the best anchor and best support legend to stabilize your squad, and basically he does what Gibby has always done but just flat out better now. So there it is, guys. Those are my opinions on this Season 14 Legend meta. If you would change this list, how would you change it? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you want to learn how to play the new Vantage or Mad Maggie with her buffs, then check out these videos. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.